Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
In veterans disability cases. Wade, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today, Peter.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your background and a little bit about your practice.
Well, going way back, I was raised on a farm in upstate New York, and with my brothers and I, we had a paper route. Worked for my dad. Went to school. Farther on, went in the military. I worked on Capitol Hill. Had a bunch of different sort of experiences like that, but I've been practicing law in Florida for about 35 years and handling cases predominantly in Florida. Post-COVID, things obviously changed for Social Security and veterans claims. Those cases we handle effectively nationwide. And I've also handled cases in New York, Michigan, and the District of Columbia as part of that. And I've had a long sort of run with technology. I was one of the first 50 lawyers to have a website, actually, back in the early 90s. And today, I'd say the real sort of focus of the things I do really has as much to do with AI exploration and how it's really changing the face of the legal profession. And I'm super excited about it. I think it's got incredible potential. I thought in many ways, as AI started really coming to the forefront here about 4 or 5 years ago, that we really were in about 1994 in terms of the growth of the internet. But I think it's accelerated farther than that. And usually when I hear colleagues tell me, oh, it's not going to be a factor and they're not concerned with it, I say, well, I do know that a colleague at one of the large entertainment and industries in Central Florida told me in 1998 that he didn't think that his company was going to ever use email, that it was some sort of a threat. So I've thought, listen for those types of things to know that change is coming and rather rapidly.
Right. Yeah. You don't start in the mailroom anymore.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And thank you for your service in the Army. I've got to say on a personal note, go Navy, but we're glad to have you and thank you for your service. No, you're absolutely right. The digital era changed a lot of things, starting in the 90s, being able to communicate electronically, instantaneously in a way, or near instantaneously. How does a consumer-focused firm adapt while keeping clients both interested and protecting their interests?
Yeah, that's really the challenge, Peter. The fact of the matter is that the technologies are moving faster in many ways than what people can absorb them. But my view of it is that the lawyer that is not quickly learning to use the tools and master the tools is going to be left in the dust by those that do. So one of the active things for lawyers to do is start using the tools, start thinking of the processes that you can do. What are the strengths and weaknesses? Don't use this as sort of super search. It's not. Think about how you can functionally place that in your workflow. What things can you put into that mix early on, and be willing to try different versions of AI. At any one time, Gemini's got its use. Certainly, if you're a Google Workspace user, you're going to be able to use Claude, whether it's Claude Desktop or Claude Code. Those all have a place. Grok's got a place. ChatGPT's got a place. Think about those, how those can get into the mix early on, and be willing to experiment with those things. And sometimes there's going to be some fails. We've all read the situations with lawyers that that have had some monumental fails.
Case law that doesn't exist, and
you need to know that. I mean, that's been the case since the early days of search.
Sure.
What the lawyer has the advantage of using these things over consumers is they have domain expertise. Use that expertise, read what it provides you and say, wow, that was really quick. You got me that. Okay, what do you base that on?
Right. Still be the subject matter expert, even though you're using the productivity tools that help you do your job faster.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, now you can take something, for instance, in Gemini, you can write the prompt, say, I need to have this, but it needs to be based upon the rules of civil procedure, identify the specific state, identify the specific matter, indicates you need a decisional law, you need it specifically, you need to cite it. And when it gives you an answer that is appropriate, that is cited to the appropriate things, and you feel good with that, you can tell it even to draft the initial correspondence as needed. Click the button to move that into Google Docs, have it for edit, and out the door it goes in a way that, even since we use computerized legal research with Lexis and Westlaw that really started in 91, 92, right. 93, the fact of the matter was it was just another task. And then you had to take that information that you pulled and then you needed to recreate it. And so now you have this capability to generate the information as needed. And then it seems to me that what's going to happen with many of my colleagues, if they're not on top of this, they're not going to learn. Like, one of the things that I've seen is clients that will try to use AI to give you an answer or to ask even more questions. So then you get a 400-word partial treatise that has clearly come from AI, right, that's got maybe 90%. But look, professionals are all about what the edge case is. If it's that easy that you can get it by a quick search, you don't need the lawyer. You need a lawyer for judgment. So you have to be able to spot that when that comes in and say, okay, I need to address that.
Right.
Yeah. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. When your AI's competing against somebody else's AI for the best answers, and you're trying to have a communication and solve a human problem, because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people and interactions and systems, but the AI can both benefit and be a detriment to that process in some cases. And even proper implementation of the tools, right? I mean, how many emails and text messages do you get that says "Dear bracket first name bracket" when somebody hasn't even formatted their automation properly to actually create the outcome that they're looking for, and it becomes a hassle. And these things are essentially productivity tools, but in some cases they drain productivity in the competition for attention, and we're all in a competition for it. That time is the valuable resource here that we're all trying to preserve and maximize in the best way possible, and that can be difficult. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it seems to me that when email really started getting its kind of foothold, I mean, I was super excited about it. And, and I was, telling folks, in fact, I had a court reporter that I started using specifically because back in the early 90s, she had an AOL account. And I said, oh, that'd be kind of cool. Can you email me the ASCII file as opposed to me waiting for the transcript? I thought it was
printed,
easier. It was easy just to keep
over
the transcripts. It was great. But now we've moved to the point where you're exactly right. We're playing whack-a-mole with email every day. And, it's like the ocean. You don't want to turn your back on it because the wave will crash over you with the sheer volume of the email that you get. And so now there are tools to address that. And they work good. They don't. We get emails now that is an attempt to have a conversation. We've had to try to establish in my office, I've done this for some time, is to say, if this series of emails is quickly looking like it's a conversation, then you need to have the conversation.
Set a meeting.
Do not let the email become the conversation. That's a fail right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, and again, digital assistants, electronic automation, and everything else. If you have that meeting, that virtual face-to-face meeting in a virtual setting like this one, you can generate an automatic transcript, and then you do have that written record of the conversation that you were generating on email. You're just doing it in real time in a manner that is more productive and more instantaneous, which is what the email was supposed to do to begin with, but not within an office.
Right. Even with clients, for that matter. I find that if it's moving to where everybody wants everything in writing and so on, then for a wide variety of situations, maybe that's just not going to be functional, because that means we're not having a conversation. And if we're just a series of sort of digital communications passing back and forth, that may not even be something that's workable, and things that require subjectivity and judgment that is going to be part of that, because judgment isn't in an email. Right. It's not. And everybody has their own sort of risk assessments, particularly in the multitude of legal areas. People are asking for people's opinion. They're asking for their judgment on things. Understanding the nuances of that does require having some level of understanding of each other.
Yeah. That human connection, you can't get tone in electronic communications. You don't know the difference between fine and fine.
Exactly.
Can speak volumes. Resignation versus acceptance, and you have to be able to quantify and qualify those interactions in a way that makes it possible to have resolution and judgment, and in some cases authorization to move forward. If you don't have that sort of, I can say how it sounded when I heard it, it can lead to trouble down the road where I didn't really agree to that, or that's not what I meant. Meaning matters, and sometimes that live interactive communication speaks a lot more to meaning than the words themselves. You're right. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about virtualization and how we've all moved into some of these spaces, particularly in the last 6 years, as we had to isolate and segregate a little more because of health reasons, the COVID-19 pandemic and other things. But it allowed us to implement a whole lot of things. We really let electronic signatures take off in an accepted way. We have virtual consultations for everything from law to healthcare to a variety of other industries. And we can work remotely in ways that the rise of Zoom and other virtual workspaces, Slacks and co-working spaces and everything else, and smoother remote workforces in a lot of other ways, call centers and everything else. How did that change the way your law firm logistically operates, and where do you think that's going even further down the road?
Yeah, that's a great question, Peter. So pre-COVID, I couldn't beg defense counsel, opposing counsel, a judge, even clients to have a video conference, even though pre-COVID, everyone knew if you were 8 or 80, video is free. It's not complicated. It's not that. I got complaints from court reporters, everybody. They're like, why do we need to do that? We're going to have a special setup. That fundamentally changed. And it provided not just opportunities, but it did cause difficulties. There's been some notable cases where judges had to tell litigants appearing that it was appropriate for them to dress properly and perhaps get out of bed. Yeah. It has resulted, though, in a lot of interesting sort of pieces, right? For clients in particular, but even for lawyers, you're avoiding the driving time. It's a huge thing. But I had a colleague. She used to work for me, actually. She's a lawyer. And she had told me maybe a year into the pandemic, the difficulty was the task switching was too extensive. You got virtually no downtime unless you actually built it in, which is not really the way that lawyers were trained and wired. Downtime is, okay, well, I have to walk back from the courthouse to my office, or I have to drive somewhere, and so on. So those things changed. With clients, all of a sudden, the imperative, let's get everyone to the church on time, suddenly became video. Wow, that's an incredible sort of savings. And overwhelmingly, people have responded to it very well. The difficulty sometimes is that, for whatever reason, sometimes it is better to sit in person. It's been very difficult to sort of discern when those situations are. Overwhelmingly, people are not stuck into place. And I think it's only going to get better. There are some things that in the workspace. So if I am not physically in my office, there are some acceptable losses that you're going to pay for.
Right.
That ability, if you've got 3 or 4 people that sit at, near, or in your physical space, you can't have multiple conversations with people when you're on video.
Impromptu
I can't just
collaboration.
look over and
yeah,
exactly. It's that interaction is different. And we're still trying to figure that out, how that sort of works. But I think overwhelmingly, clients are super happy with not having to physically drive to a courthouse, a lawyer's office. I get clients that maybe they live 5-10 miles away from my office. They're like, wait, it's great, love to see you, but I'm just busy.
Right.
Life is busy, and it's great. It's kind of social. It's awesome. Love to see you come in, but I get it. We're super busy. People get their groceries delivered at home now because they just have a lot going on. Life tends to accelerate with each new technological innovation. And then as it accelerates, it's not like it sort of opens it up and say, okay, well, we have more leisure time. And I think personally, it's because humans are just wired to do stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we are the product of millions of years of evolution using combinatorial talents to build tools to do more, to build more things. And that's probably one of the more exciting things to me about the digitization of so many things. It's just opening up more possibilities to do things in a way. But you do have to learn that there are things like task switching that you do need to learn. Okay, if I have this event, if it's right on top of this event, maybe I need to take 10 minutes to breathe. And I'll tell my team that. I'm like, guys, look, I've got like back to back. I need to be able to at least get out of the chair and walk around the room maybe once.
Turn on the radio like you're in the car. Pretend you're in the car and listen to the radio for 10 minutes.
The radio, listen to you, Peter. The radio that doesn't exist anymore. That's why, because that was the thing. And then now, even if you have to transport the things, if you use the newest download of Tesla self-driving, you don't need to drive. It's not quite to the point where you get to sit there on your laptop,
read the book.
It's changed fundamentally.
Yeah, it's definitely allowed you to at least on a mental level, divert focus and think about other things than the act of driving. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's some of that freeing up the mental bandwidth can be extremely helpful to allow you to do other things and think about other aspects of your life or other aspects of your work. So the way that we can free up some bandwidth and time, and if every 30 minutes is a valuable commodity in your day, not being forced to spend it in the car thinking about the road in front of you to go accomplish something, and then the same 30 minutes back home, you saved 5% of your day, 10% if you don't count the non-useful sleeping hours, in a way that allows you to get something else done. And that can be very valuable. And the act of video conferencing is in a lot of ways more interactive and more productive than simple simple phone conversations, either two-party or multi-party phone conversations, because you do at least get some of that visual feedback, and it allows you to gauge somebody's interest level and concentration level. And, is a pause a distraction, or is a pause because the kid off camera is asking for something and they're on mute? You get to gauge all of these things a little better. And using that human assessment tool that we've got, we can make better conclusions and better judgments about what we're doing based on the information available. It's more information, and that can be great in a way that even the transcripts of the video conferences can't properly capture in a way that sort of what was the feeling. And the humans are the ones that know the feeling and nobody else, which is still, it's the reason you and I can both do the jobs that we do, is because we can communicate and assess and make critical thinking decisions in a way that the electronic stuff might be able to help with, but can't do for us. And I think that's still really great. Electronics helps, but it's not the end.
No, you're right. It's just the beginning, and the technology is only going to improve. I have a team. A lot of them are in their 20s, early 30s, and it's remarkable to me, because you can talk about, okay, this is the way it used to be, and I say, no, I don't want you to get focused on that. I want you to focus about what it is that you're doing today. That in 20 years you're going to look back and say, wow, I can't believe we had to do it that way, right? Because that type of time shift occurs very, very rapidly, and who knows, maybe some of the features of like the Vision Pro that Apple has, it's extraordinary, because you can virtually get an emotional response from watching some of the videos that they have in their, like, the children's birthday party and things like that, which is not really possible in our current environment with video, that you can quite get to that. And who knows, maybe that will be some of it. I don't believe in this sort of dystopian future where, AI is going to run the planet and
Sure.
everybody's going to get run by some machine, because we're not going to let that. I suppose, if you live in some sort of totalitarian society, we're not going to let that happen. But I think instead the technology will get better, so that you do have that better appreciation for the human things, as you said. I think that's an excellent insight, because that's the part of it. It's still humans communicating and doing things, and responding to each other. And that's one of the things the AI doesn't do a good job with. And I'm not so sure as that's fundamentally going to change. Maybe it will. I don't rule it out. But we feed off from each other, just like you said. You talk to somebody, their inflection and their how they're thinking about it, and what's going on with their facial expression. I mean, I saw one of the best examples of this was, try to have two, brilliant AIs. Okay, they can play chess, they can play Go, but they don't do a very good job playing against a human opponent playing something like Texas Hold'em.
Right.
Because each bluff is built upon the other ones, and how they sort of do that. That those are human characteristics. I think that's why the things that we're doing today, we have really no concept of what that's going to be like 10 years from now. And who knows, maybe some of these features that I'm talking about, maybe they will be built into that. Maybe that's part of the excitement of it.
Yeah. Can you quantify excitement in a way that a logical engine is going to be able to make some sort of assessment of the difference between the words and the feeling? You're absolutely right. Well, Wade, thank you so much for joining us today. This was wonderful. You're practicing in Florida, but you take cases in a variety of formats nationwide. Where else can people find you if they'd like to communicate more with you and learn more about what you're working on? What's your website?
The website is coyelaw.com. And we have social media feeds. Coyelaw.com is on the different meta profiles, Instagram, Facebook, that sort of thing. People call my office. It's easy to Google me. I've been on the internet for a long time, so there's just a lot of me on there. It's easy to get in touch when people have questions they want to follow up on, and we want to try to be helpful. And as I said, it's an exciting time, and it's an exciting time that I don't think anyone even remotely was even considering 30 years ago.
20 or 30 years ago.
In fact, it's got to the point now where literally there's probably no place on the planet now that you can't communicate. I have to tell people that in my office, global telecommunications means that you can contact just about anybody virtually anywhere, any time of the day on the planet. It effectively is zero cost.
Right. Yeah. Negligible cost. Yeah. That's something that was inconceivable in an earlier generation. Absolutely right. You're right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was a wonderful conversation. This has been Partnerships for Profit. I'm the host, Peter Conrad. We're a production of Leduc Entertainment, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.